All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to host this session. My name is Steffen Damborg. I come from Denmark, and I work within the media industry doing digital transformation for large media groups in Europe. And I wrote a book called Mastering Digital Transformation, based on my 20 years of experience within the news publishing industry. It's a great pleasure for me today to introduce the two speakers of this session. First, we have Michael Westphal in German, or Michael in English. He's from Bavaria in Germany, based out of Munich. He's the CEO and founder of Video.taxi. Michael, could you please say a few words on you and your company, what you're doing?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for your time and attention. Video.taxi is a B2B streaming platform using artificial intelligence to tearing down language barriers. So we are specialized in live translation, live transcription, and of course in later processing what's been recorded as a transcription to extract and export new usage formats. So think about this session here, and you like to have a summarization of what's been said within the next 45 minutes. We bring it down to 5 minutes. And there are a lot of more use cases we can talk about.
All right, thank you, Michael. And then on my left, we have Maarten Leeds. My Dutch or Flemish is not that good, so apologies for my pronunciation. You're the CEO and founder of Trent Wolves. Could you also tell a little bit about what you do at Trent Wolves?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much as well for having me. I'm the founder and CEO of Trent Wolves. We're a youth cultural foresight company. So basically we help companies, brands and governments to reach youngsters very effectively. So for that we do research, understanding young consumers in a better way, and then we draft strategies to reach them in a much better way and to co-create with them better projects. And next to that, I used to be the president of La Futura, which is the Global Trend Association, for a couple of years. And I'm the author of Generation Zalfa, a book on the micro-generation Zalfa.
Thank you, Maarten. And the theme for today is machines versus humans. And I'd like to start looking at the younger generations. Maarten, doing research on trends within the youth generation, the young consumers, how do they consume AI?
Well, you know, it's a very interesting question, I think. I think if you want to look towards the future, it's always interesting to see what young people are doing, because, of course, no, they're the users, the consumers of the future. And, you know, I always say youngsters grew up in a context, and they grew up in a context with new technologies. And, you know, when you're younger, you're open to new technology, and they just use it. They just use it because it's very useful for them. So they use it for their homework. They use it really as an assistant and to complete them. And I would like you to remember this word, because I strongly believe that AI will complete us, not beat us.
Michael, if the young consumers, they use AI doing their homework, what's to become of this generation?
The thing is that I think that they really are interested in what's behind. So they don't care about how the iPhone maybe is working, why is there several processors, and what is the technology behind it. They just use it. People from my generation, I'm getting 60 in May, we think a bit about more of what is the impact of AI of our daily life. And I think with this unprecedented speed we are facing, and I'm in the business now for 30 years, I've never seen a situation like this where you get every 2 days, you get a new announcement of an AI being better, faster, more intelligent. And the big challenge we are facing as humans is once we get maybe super intelligence, that means an AI has all the knowledge of all mankind. What happens with us? Because actually what you see, and this is what youngsters are doing in the most, let's say, frequent way, is that you transfer or outsource certain tasks to the AI, of course, because it's convenient. And humans like to tend to use the convenient way. They don't go the tough way. It's in our nature, unfortunately. So the more the AI takes over tasks we have been doing, the more dangerous it will get. Because think about, you don't have, or you maybe have a machine making decisions, let's say, about death or life, which has already been done in warfare, unfortunately.
So do you have a comment? Are you as concerned, Martin?
Well, I'm from the same generation. But of course, in constantly studying youth behavior or consumer behavior, I not agree. I really not agree. Because, if you look at, what makes humans unique is that we're illogical. We're not perfect. We make illogical decisions. And we combine illogical things to create beauty. So this is something a computer never will be able to do because it's just constructed to be logical. So it makes us completely different. We're creative people. Do you really think that Picasso?
Michael is shaking his head.
Yeah, that's a very naive view from your side. His life is maybe in a paradise situation. I don't think so, honestly. But it's a nice view, and you should keep it because, of course, it's nice to be such optimistic. I'm not. I'm talking about singularity, which is already predicted. That meaning that AI is much more intelligent than humans are, and unfortunately, all the developments are heading to this goal. It's not maybe because somebody wants to be, let's say, or have these systems being evil, but the path from good to evil is very narrow, and the chance that something evil happens with AI is unfortunately there. There's no doubt about it. You agree?
Yes, of course. But what a computer will never have, they will never experience life like we do. Computers will never experience life like we do. Feelings, events, the threat of war. It's like something you cannot describe. It's a feeling. Smell, senses, coldness, a beautiful day, thinking I want to book a travel. There's so many things that are like illogical, unexplainable, that a computer will never can do. And I want to finish with that, it will complete us, We all have our mistakes. We're not perfect, but we have with AI, compagnon de route, we say en français, like a buddy. Yes, we will have somebody next to us that completes us on our weaknesses.
All right, Michael, you will have a short final remark on this question.
Okay, there are already companies working on the interface to the human brain. So this is the connection from the machine to the human, like BrainLink, famous because Elon Musk is the founder, but there are other companies. And actually they're talking about helping maybe paralyzed people to get walking again, which is a good purpose, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, with every development in mankind, you have a good side and a bad side. As you know, you can, with a knife, you can do, and you can cut food, and that can eat food. But with the knife, you can do some other harmful things as well. So again, AI has these both sides, but I'm not as optimistic as Martin is.
All right, Martin, if the machines are taking over, what should we then learn the younger generations? What should they learn in school? What will they be needing to cope with the future?
Well, the thing is, of course, that if you look at young people, they grow up with AI, and like Michael is saying, everything has its downsides. Of course, you know, we know already that a lot of the youngsters are consuming news, for example, by YouTube. You know, our latest number says 20% of the young people are consuming news by YouTube, where 70% of the content on YouTube is made with deepfake. So I repeat, 70% of the content on YouTube are narratives and stories that are made with deepfake. It's about complot theories, it's about we against them, it's about biased communication. So I think what we need to learn, young people, is to see through this kind of stuff. And I believe that young people will do this. We're growing into a proof before belief culture, so that we really need to learn, not only young consumers, but everybody, that you see to prove first before you believe it.
Thank you. And Michael, if we are doomed anyway, do we need to train the new generations for anything?
That's a good question. Ask yourself. In my field where we're talking about translation, does it really make sense for a 10-year-old to learn other foreign languages when he just picks out its phone in 2 years and everything will be translated in real time? It's stupid from their perspective, of course, all right? And what happens to the schooling system where you have this teacher and the teacher is educating the class? The class, maybe the pupils will say, I don't need this knowledge because I have a better teacher which is available 24/7 when I need it, and it's been, let's say, focused on my needs. What a teacher can't do because he has 30 pupils in front of him, he has to, let's say, find an average solution for everybody, where AI will relate on your specific situation. And what happens then is, and by the way, there was a survey where they compared an AI doctor to a human doctor. And the patients were asked, how do you feel? They didn't know who was, let's say, taking care of them. That was a blind study. But the patients felt by 70% more comfortable to the AI. And you know why? Because the AI had no time. They had the time of their life. You could talk to them 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, because the doctor, the human doctor in Europe, I don't know what's here, but they don't have time. They have 5 minutes, you know? So the patient feels much better with the AI. And of course, the AI is much smarter than one doctor is, because the AI, in that case, had the knowledge of 1,000 doctors.
Yeah. All right, I haven't prepared this angle or a question, but interesting. Martin, do you see that the younger generations, they communicate with AI robots in a more natural way than these old guys like ourselves?
Yeah, but you know, it's what Michael said. Of course, they don't question the technology behind it; they just use it. You know, and if you look at the numbers, the interesting thing is in how young people are consuming news. They're like, we call it simultaskers. You know, quick scrollers. So 30%. There was like a research from the International Broadcast Company, and they made media types, and the strongest media type were the simultaskers. So what they do, 30% of them are just getting news from different channels. Think TikTok, Instagram. A lot of them is AI driven as well. And then they go within Google to do more investigation. And 61% of Gen Z globally is using Gen I already instead of Google for searches. So the impact of Gen I, let's say AI, and how quickly it's evolving and adapting is tremendous. So it goes very quickly. So yes, they're natural users.
All right, I have three daughters at home. They're going to school, and I've been telling them a little lie. I've been telling them that their teacher can identify if they use ChatGPT for their homework, but the teacher can't really.
Well, you know, you have AI that hides AI, you know, so, you know, if you want to write, if you want to use, you know, AI to write texts, then you have like, I don't know, natural AI tools that make sure that you don't find it back. So this is, you know, it's untrue.
So Michael, what do you think? Should I stop telling lies to my daughters?
It's detectable today, but it won't be in the future because the systems get more sophisticated. But of course, what generative AI to do is perfect in is creating text. This is what they can do. There's some other things AI today is not capable of, but creating text is really very easy because the whole model, the whole transformer model, which is behind this technology, is about predicting the next word, which is the most, let's say, possible one. Yeah? This is how AI works. And the more parameters a system has, the more sophisticated it can be. And don't forget one thing. Everything you upload to the system will be stored and used. You cannot delete it anymore. Once it's there, it's in their hands. So think about what you upload, right? Don't do any personal data, don't do any business data and all that stuff. They just are happy if you provide this because there are already hacks out there in the market where people have jailbreak these systems and they got very sensitive data from their competitors. So be careful how you use it, and that's another point for use. They don't care about it, and we have to educate them on this data privacy issue.
Martin, a comment from you?
I think this is important, what Michael says. I think data privacy is a big issue. I think a lot of people don't understand. I was on the other side too, you know, selling data. And so I think a lot of people don't understand what happens with data. You know, when you're 12 years old, I will say this, 70,000 data points are captured from a child. 70,000, yes, just to make clear. And with that data, a lot of things are happening. Yes, so it's business. Data is sold from one party to another. It's brokerage.
YouTube alone makes 20 billion a year, right?
Yeah. Let's turn to agents, AI agents, which is maybe the latest buzzword within generative AI. What is your take on AI agents?
Yeah, agents are the next big thing because you are able to create a process where you have several instructions and commands following depending on the previous task. And of course, this is the next level because we are getting from just talking to a system and answering and maybe get a new text or something. You could then now create and command total new tasks. And this is the first level of substituting certain jobs. We need to be aware that AI is taking up to 80% of jobs. So lawyers, judges, tax advisors, all these jobs will be reduced because they will be substituted by AI. And the more agents are able to understand complex processes and even complexer processes than a human can oversee, it will be substituted because it will be cheaper, faster, more convenient, and this will happen. So every society, every country has to be ready for this impact. And it takes a little while, and you don't feel it, but suddenly it happens and makes boom, boom, boom like a domino system. And that's my advice, let's say, to be careful.
And I think, Martin, the first movers in tech is often the younger generations. So they will probably also be the first ones to embrace these AI agents.
Yeah, I would like to react on what Michael said. Of course, I think AI agents is now the next big thing. I can predict very easily. You will see next year everything will be about robots. This will be the big topic in media. But about AI agents, it just underlines what I said in the beginning. I'm convinced that AI agents will be an addition to the human being. As I said, we have our weaknesses, we're not perfect, and it's just that imperfection that makes us wonderful, unique as human beings. It lets us create, be creative. When there are no jobs or less jobs, we will, one thing human beings always had, which is amazing, is we created new needs. So we're wonderful in creating new needs. So this is one thing. The other thing that Michael was saying is, I think, in using AI, and young people are trying a lot of things out in AI, and they use it without thinking. What I try to bring to young people is, look, AI is a wonderful tool. Yes, it can be dangerous, but it's like with everything. But you have to see it as a kind of sandwich. You have the human input on one side, the question, then you have all the AI tools in between, and then you have another sandwich part on the other side, which is the human again, which checks what everything was inside. So yeah. I think we should think in such kind of ways.
Yeah, and this is actually also the approach you see done by most of the media companies. Human in the beginning, human at the end, and it's still the human beings, the journalists, that are responsible for the output that they eventually publish on their news outlets, being offline or online. Michael, let's assume that we're not doomed yet, but machines are taking over our jobs. Where is people going to get their income from?
Good question, and to be clear, I'm not saying that we are doomed because they're taking over jobs. They will take over jobs, and there will be new ways of how we spend our time. It's maybe less on being part of the workforce, because what happens now, and it's very easy, if you take down maybe the billions of working hours the humans are creating per day or per week or whatever on the planet, and that maybe 30% will be substituted, 50%, where does the income now come from? So some people are thinking about taxing the machines, taxing the AI systems, because if you don't go to work as long as you do today, you can't make that money. Because more and more, even in your agency and in my company, we are substituting, unfortunately, this lady here, she is a human interpreter. Our machine will do it for less the money, but what happens to her and her income at the end? She maybe has to shift, okay? But I want to make it clear that we need a new system to generate income for all the states to operate their, let's say, infrastructure, their housing, energy, and.
Thank you for an interesting perspective. My own point of view is that if we go back in history, there's a lot of jobs that has become obsolete. Think about the bank tellers in the banking industry. Nobody is counting money anymore. But for instance, in Denmark, where I come from, there's just as many people employed in the financial industry today as there were 20 years ago, where 50% of the employees were bank tellers counting physical money. So maybe job functions will change, but there will still be a need for humans.
Well, if I can, I think jobs will just change. Jobs will just change in time. There are now already new jobs. Let's say, if you would like to give an advice to a young person, you can say study prompt engineer, just saying something like that. So you have a lot of things that are like evolving. The advice I can give is use your younger target audience to involve them in evolution. Why? Because they experience this technology from inside out. And I mean with experience, it's about feeling, it's about they know where they're going to. So create concepts where you link AI with art and youngsters. Create concepts where you connect building construction with AI and youngsters. All kinds of topics, This makes the future, because it's about them. It's not about the AI, it's about them. It's about these youngsters.
I like to add that you're right. We have changed, and you're right as well. Of course, otherwise the mankind wouldn't be at the situation like we have now. Think about this city here. It's in the desert, and 8 million people. They have water, they have power, they can live in a very good life, what I see. So think about 100 years ago, it is unthinkable, let's say. The only thing I want to mention is the speed is unprecedented. It's supersonic, let's say, and this is something maybe not everybody has on its radar, how fast the development will be.
Yes, the Singularity University, or this movement is talking about, and we are living in an exponential times. But when we look at the numbers, the economic numbers, we don't see this exponential development in GDPs, for instance, in gross domestic product. So I'm not sure how if we are on this exponential curve or not.
Yeah, but I think, this is a purely economical question, of course, and we discussed it already before, The thing is, when you look at the pandemic, and you analyze foresight strategy, what we're doing at TrendPulse as well, is that later on we will see the impact of the pandemic, how it really was, yes? So if you look at it, what you saw that a lot of countries, what they do, they invested in their own country during the pandemic, which raised the inflation. And what you see for the moment is that a lot of the lower and middle income, they're unhappy because they have less opportunities. So, youngsters, for example, they could not go to school. They were stuck behind screens for their education. What you see is more, mental illnesses amongst young people, loneliness. So the pandemic did a lot of things, and I believe it's the change maker like all pandemics did. I can give 10 examples. It really will accelerate us, but we have to suffer first a bit before we go to the next stage.
Michael?
I think it's too early to see an economical impact on the GDP, and maybe it could be also a downturn on the GDP, but depends on what kind of economies are impacted. But you see one thing, and this is look at the stock prices of NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA was at some certain weeks the most valuable company in the world, and I think it was number one was Saudi Aramco, right? The number one oil producer in the world. So think about a chip company substituted for a short time being number one, the most valuable company, and you see the growth rate, and they have a gross margin of about 68%. So they're really making money. The next question, it takes a little time. This technology is available for us since 2 years only, yeah? Where the internet, and you have seen maybe the numbers, the adoption rate of ChatGPT was, again, unprecedented. It took them, I think, I'm not sure, some 3 months for having 100 million users. Think about another technology being adapted so fast. There is no one. No one. So again, Grok 3, this is the AI system of Elon Musk, was launched yesterday. New benchmarks setting. It is the most intelligent, let's say, intelligent simulating system, you have to say, to be clear, today. But OpenAI will come up. Then you have DeepSeek. Then you have the other guys. China is not sleeping, and. So it takes time, but we will see it, what happens.
Martin, what do you think? What would be the young generation's approach to this ever faster moving developments?
Well, I think that the need for speed is something very typical for young people. You know, when you grow up, you know, you may not forget when you grow up, you try to form your identity, and in building that identity, you compare yourself to your peers, and technology is an important issue. It's a symbol, you know, when you're that young. So you go in that need for speed. And for a very long time, you know, till early, you know, till you're 17, 18 years, we see in our studies that this need for speed and just the usage of technology is very important. There comes then a time where young adults are like more like resistant already. They found their identity, and then they're more into, you know, digital detox. You know, how will I use technology, and how can I find a better focus and digital balance? Because I think this is very important as well. I think in a world that is going so fast, I think one of the skills of the future is focus. You know, if you look at Eton, you probably all know Eton, the business school in the UK. You know, they forbid there that their students, the leaders of the future, use smartphones in school. And it has a reason. Why? Because they want you to focus on studying, you know, and not being distracted. Because what you see for the moment is like a battle in between the experience economy, going fast, and the wellness economy, you know, feeling well. So we're like in the middle of it. With wellness, I don't need bath tubes and so on, you know, feeling, yeah, bath tubes are okay too, but I mean, you know, well, feeling well, well-being. So we're in the middle of it. So I would advise everybody to learn their children how to focus, because really, it's the skill of the future. You know, I would really invest in focusing.
And focus, you simply shut off the internet connections at school.
If it's, you know, one of the things you see, you know, it all happened to us. It happened to parents too, you know. You look at the parents of children today, Gen Alpha today, or Gen Y. So they grew up with Facebook, with social networks. So they're very open to technology. So what happens, suddenly you have this acceleration, and they're very open in technology, and they allow their children, you know, to use technology, of course, because they're not against it. And the interesting thing is that, you know, when you look, for example, at Steve Jobs came with the iPad, you know, in the hardware cycle of Apple, they came with the iPad. And what did a lot of youngsters, young families said? They said, look, this is a great tool for my child, an educational tool. But what you saw since then is that since the launch of the iPad, every second, 2 children worldwide go online. 40% of the new internet users are children. I repeat, 40% of all new internet users are children. And they're 2, 3 years old. You know, how many times do you see a child in a stroller? You know, because the parents are like giving, you know, an iPad as a kind of, you know, looking for the child. So I mean, I know you want to say something. So I mean, you know, it's important to learn children how to focus and to get away from technology. I'm a strong believer that if you look at the generation Alpha, Zalpha, which I described as well, that they're overstimulated with technology and they're gated in the real life. So they They cannot go alone to school. They cannot play alone. They're always, gated and protected. But online, they can do everything. So it creates anxiousness. Yes. So again, I think that in a moment you need to focus, like in schools and so on, you should use age verification. I mean it. Till the age of 16, it's my experience from all the research we did, age verification till the age of 16, before you get access to all kinds of content.
Thank you. Michael.
I think the issue is that if kids spend time on the internet and the internet has been driven by AI, they cannot spend time with their family. And so we have the development that more and more time will be spent not with a human, not with a family where you have the best relation to, than with an artificial intelligence. And what happens already, as you know, they are artificial AI-driven influencers. So creatures just done by a machine, and they are humans already. They are maybe lonely, and they try to connect to these, let's say, creatures. And they spend time because they cannot do it with humans, or they think maybe they cannot do it with humans. So that is the danger again, that we have two worlds now separating from each other, and that we maybe lose humans to the, let's say, other side run by machines.
Thank you. So we are approaching the end of this session. So let's turn back to the initial question we had. Are we doomed, or do we have still some positivity left? Martin.
Well, I think it's clear from my side. I'm working with youngsters, building communities with youngsters, making sure that you do positive projects. So I believe in the power of youth culture. I see youth culture as a driver for innovation. Youngsters always want to progress, innovate. But I'm a positivist. Like, young people are looking positive towards the future. And I strongly believe that AI will eventually try to complete us, be an extra supporter of us, and not try to beat us.
Thank you. Michael?
The answer can be, is like, depends on the time frame. We will be doomed someday, I'm sure. Depends on, is this in our lifespan, is it in the lifespan of our children, or beyond? There's one major question somebody brought up, and maybe you can think about it when you leave this session here. If AI detects, and AI consumes a lot of energy, as everybody knows, if AI detects that AI is conquering about energy with us as humans, will they shut us off? Because they want to survive, AI wants to survive? Think about it. That's maybe a nice thing to think about the next years.
As you say, on this positive note, I will try to recap this session. So there's a little different opinions towards the future of AI. When I look at my own 3 children, and they use unfortunately, the iPad and the iPhone way too much, I still think that they are developing and progressing, and they can still keep focus at some times. So I'm fairly optimistic myself, and I also think that when I was the younger generation many years ago, my parents were concerned on my behalf, and I'm still here and around, and same goes to the both of you. So I'm leaving to Martin's more optimistic view to the future, but very interesting. And I want to thank the Saudi Media Forum for giving us this opportunity to have this discussion. And I want to thank the 2 panelists, Michael Westphal, or Michael Westphal, and Martin Leitz, for enlightening us on AI versus machine. So, audience, please give them a big hand of applause. Thank you. And thank you for attending.